Welcome everyone to my Bake Along series. I am thrilled to share this recipe with you today for my raspberry jam filled donut muffins. Definitely a weekend treat you want to whip up, and the great thing is they come together in such a snap. I'm going to start with the wet ingredients. This is one of those recipes you can mix by hand. So I've got my milk, and you'll see in the recipe below I call for 1% or 2%. Of course, it depends where you live, how you buy your milk, but a semi-skimmed milk is absolutely fine. I'll add my sugar, which even though it's a dry ingredient, I consider it a wet ingredient because it's going to dissolve into the milk a little, along with my oil. And you'll see in the recipe, I call for a vegetable oil. And by that, and I've made a note of it, I mean whatever oil, neutral flavored oil you prefer. So that could be a ground nut oil if you'd rather. It could be a grapeseed. Really, it's up to you. What counts is that it's neutral. I'll crack in my 2 eggs. And to really give these let's get that eggshell out of there. I'm gonna have to recover that eggshell in a couple of minutes as it is now lost in a sea of sugar and milk and I can't see it at all. I will add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract because unlike a traditional muffin where you're usually adding fruit or nuts or other things, this is all about recreating the flavor of a donut. So I find a little extra vanilla here goes a long way. Now, I'll give this a little whisk by hand. See if that piece of eggshell wants to appear. This is how you know it's real-time baking here. We're not going to cut that out. So once you've got everything combined, now it's time for the dry ingredients. As I mentioned, you can sift your dry ingredients in a separate bowl, or you can sift them right on top of your wet ingredients. I've measured out my flour already. Because I have a whole piece of nutmeg as opposed to pre-ground, I'm just going to grate that right on top of the flour before I start sifting, because then I don't have to stop halfway through. So that's about a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And when you have a really good cakey style donut, it's the nutmeg that gives it that sort of signature donut flavor. So in addition to that, I'll add the flour all at once. And I should let you know, it looks like a lot of flour because it is a fair bit. This recipe makes 18 donut muffins. I've got a full tablespoon of baking powder, a little bit of salt, and then just a touch of cinnamon in combination with the nutmeg to really give it that good aroma. We're trying to balance out the fact that you're not deep frying this. You're not actually making a donut. You want to replace what texture is with sort of a little bit of extra flavor. There. Now this makes a relatively soft dough, so you can go back to your whisk if you want, or you can use your spatula and whisk this together. And like making a lot of muffin batters or even pancake batters, if there are a few lumps in the batter, once you've combined everything, that's absolutely okay. You clearly don't want visible bits of flour. Just being careful here so I don't make a mess. If you're more comfortable, you could pull out electric beaters. Just be careful not to over mix, because then you might end up with a muffin that peaks in the center. Too much, meaning it's been over whisked. So you can see how you do have just sort of a natural state of a few lumps. It really does look like pancake batter. And that eggshell just does not want to reappear. It is hiding at the bottom of the bowl. We can hope. Okay, that's 90% of the process. That batter really whips up in no time. And I've got my muffin tins ready here. You can use paper. I've got foil liners with the paper inside. Whatever you have is great. Now I use 2 scoops. These are filled muffins. So we're gonna put raspberry jam in the center, just like a filled raspberry jelly donut. So I have to fill the muffin cups 2/3 full and then put the jam in and then top with the remaining batter. So I use 2 size scoops. You can use a piping bag if you want. You can pour, you can spoon. If you're using scoops, this is a size 24, and then the smaller one is a size 40. But really, as I say in my instructions in the recipe, you want to fill initially 2/3 full. Then what I'm going to do is take 2 little spoons and put a spoonful of jam in the center of each, and I'll use my smaller scoop to top with the remaining batter. So here we go. There we go. All assembled. It's okay if you see a little raspberry jam peeking out here and there as the muffin bakes, because of course it cooks from the outside in. That raspberry jam kind of settles into place a little bit and that batter on top spreads over top. I've preheated my oven to 350 and these do take about 30 minutes. If you've made muffins before, you may notice it can take a higher temperature oven, 375, even 400 degrees Fahrenheit. But I want to bake these slowly just so that jam will settle. And you actually develop a bit of a crust. Crust is not the right word, but a bit of a crunchy top to the muffins, just like a good crispy donut that's crispy on the outside and soft in the center. Go. And after they come out of the oven, what I like to do is let them cool in the tin for a few minutes, then pop them out to cool completely. But I am not done with these muffins yet. So you can see the raspberry jam is contained inside, but even if they are a bit exposed, the jam doesn't leak out. The final step is to really give these a sugar jelly donut character. You could just simply dust the top with icing sugar if you wanted to, but what I like to do, let me grab my cake stand here, is brush the top of each muffin with a little bit of butter and then dip the top of it in cinnamon sugar. So you have the proportions below in the recipe. So just a little brush with butter and then a nice roll. On the cooled donuts, or they can be still slightly warm, as opposed to hot from the oven, because you don't want the sugar to dissolve. And then it's got that sugared jam donut look to it. I'll do a few of these. Now you'll see that I've added a tip. If you can't eat 18 muffins in a matter of a day or two. Of course, these freeze very well. They freeze better without the sugar top to them. But if you have muffins kicking around, and this really applies for almost any muffin, and after a day or two, they're not as fresh as they used to be, what you can do is brush the top of your muffin with about a tablespoon of milk, and then you either pop it in the microwave for a second or pop it in the oven, and that little bit of milk seeps into the muffin, freshens it up, and honestly, it's like your muffin came freshly out of the oven again. Great way to freshen up your muffin. Or say you've brought it to work and you want to reheat it at 4 o'clock with a cup of tea, that's just the way to do it. You can see how quick these are to make. They are a treat. I love hearing how you adapt and personalize my recipes. I work hard to test and create recipes that I think will make you happy, but what makes me even happier is when you take those recipes and make them your own. So whether it's changing up the flavor of the muffin itself, switching out half of the flour for whole wheat flour if you want, changing up the jam flavor, please let me know what you do in the comments below. And I always take my inspiration from you, your great ideas, your suggestions too, because we're a team, right? We're bakers. I know you're going to thoroughly enjoy making this recipe. I know I have. This one's for me. Can you tell? I'm putting extra butter on it. There we go. And just to show you what it looks like, before I sign off, this has been a real pleasure, but you know I'll be back again soon with another, ooh, see how it kind of cracks on top a little bit? Revealing that raspberry jam in the middle. I've got lots more recipes planned. So join me again for another delicious bake-along and a recipe that I know you're going to make. It's been a pleasure. See you soon. It tastes like a donut, honestly. Good. It's like a yeast donut meets a cakey donut and made friends, except you didn't have to deep fry it. Oh. This is a real treat. Hey, I never found that eggshell, did I? It's in there somewhere. It'll be like the fève in a galette de roi. It's good luck.